From Wickham to Whitley Bay, Stonygate to Shields, Doggy to Darlow Backlane. Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the Red, the Toon and the Cat.
We're at it again. It is that time of day when all the boys from all around the world come together and talk absolute nonsense. How are you, fellas? Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning,
well.
USA.
Good morning, USA. Well, let's just check. Teesside, are you here? Yes. Australia, are you here?
G'day, mate.
We like it. Get that Barbie on the whatever it is. Tyneside, are we here?
Yes, we're here, loud and clear, and looking forward to England, Scotland tonight. It's got a little bit of anticipation and excitement now. I've been a bit down on it, but now the game's here, it's a bit of football to watch, isn't it? After having a barren weekend.
Unlike
football.
Unlike Margaret Thatcher, the man is for turning, I'm telling you. County Durham Wearside, are we here?
Come on, Scotland.
Oh, yeah, sadly, he's here. The lone Scottish voice in the wilderness is here. It's a Greek neat, the neat, or whatever it is. Anyway, there you go. That's my only joke I can say. Fellas, yeah, it is. I suppose it is. It is the morning or the afternoon, depending on which part of the equation you're on in this program, before the old enemy, 150 years. Oldest football competition in the world.
Tug of war going on as well, because we were joking last week about Elliot Anderson potentially still wanting to play for England, and now we've got this tug of war going on, which makes this all the more exciting. And Gareth Southgate name-checked Elliot Anderson, didn't he, in his press conference? So that makes for an interesting read. Steve Clark clearly not happy about it either. What do you reckon of that, Macca?
Yeah, well, it's funny because we were saying that we thought he would get more of a chance playing for Scotland, didn't we? But obviously Southgate is wanting him in his England plan, so yeah, obviously might be getting Harvey Barnes as well. I think everyone just wants to play for Scotland at the moment because we're on such a high.
It won't last.
I think Dave was trying to get a game for Scotland.
Do you know? I was once told by a bunch of Scottish fans, and I think it was in Glasgow. It was either Edinburgh or Glasgow, and I was talking to them in a pub, and they went, "Where are you from?" I went, "Middlesbrough." They went, "Oh yeah, just south of Newcastle. You're close enough to the border to be Scottish. We like you." And I didn't know I didn't know how to take that. I didn't know how to take it.
I love they just claim their players like that. Yeah, you're close enough. You can do it. Here you are. Here's a national jersey. Off you go.
It's like somebody's. It's like Rye, the equivalent is somebody said, "Where are you from?" "Oh, well, I'm from Dunedin." "Yeah, that's far south enough to be Australian. We'll have you."
It is an interesting thing to see some players that obviously have the England and Scotland thing. You must get that a lot. Obviously, we've seen it with young Hayden Hackney as well, just switching over, and now obviously Elliot Anderson as well. It's interesting just to see the young players getting grabbed by their national team and seeing will they, won't they, sort of thing. It's a little bit close for comfort, I reckon. It's with us. It's you're either Australian, throw a shrimp on the barbie, or you're not. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, that's it, is it? You throw a shrimp on the barbie, right? I've got it now. That'll be tomorrow's intro, I'm telling you.
That's their answer to everything.
It's not a bad answer, Steve. I'm telling you, it's great life, isn't it?
True.
Crack open a tinny and throw a shrimp on the barbie. Love it. The answer to any problem.
And you can play for Australia.
Yes.
Wash it down with some ice brew.
That's it.
You've got actually what sort of? I'm just trying to think of the equivalent. Iron brew is obviously a Scottish drink. Dandelion and burdock, if anybody's never heard of it, might just be a Teesside thing, but I think it's certainly a northeast thing from years ago. What is it in Australia? What drink is specific apart from Foster's Lager, which is all around the world?
Jeez,
which I don't think is even Australian anymore, is it? I don't know.
It's not. It's actually been claimed by. I swear we don't actually drink Foster's here in Australia. It's actually really hard to get as well. We don't actually see it much in down at the bottle-o, as we call it. But I don't know. I mean, Victoria Bitter, VB. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Yeah, I've drunk it.
That's a big Australian beer that I swear if you could leave a glass of water on a bench and it was to go off, it'd be VB. That's how I describe VB to everyone. And I reckon that's a good one. But I don't know if we got like soft drinks or anything like that, like Iron Brew, because Iron Brew is a soft drink, right?
It is, yeah. Yeah, it is.
It is,
Yeah. So I think we've got a couple of like craft beers and stuff like that. But I think I guess the most iconic for everyone seems to be Foster's, but we don't actually drink it. But in Australia, the most like notable beer for us is if you drink Victoria Bitter, then you're a true Aussie, I think.
Yeah, it's a bit like Kestrel Lager, no doubt. Does anybody remember the English side of the equation? Do you remember Kestrel Lager? It was Kestrel, wasn't it? I remember drinking that as a kid.
LCL Pills was like rocket fuel as well. Do you remember that? That was like 33 pence a bottle in your local social club, or 66 pence a pint. It was absolutely mental.
Yeah.
And of course, brown ale for Newcastle fans, I guess. Brown ale.
Oh yeah, Newcastle brown ale. Yeah.
I've got a brown ale story actually. When I lived in the US, my mum and dad came out to visit, and there's a handful of stories I could tell, but I'll get straight to the point. We went to the local boozer, which was a couple of miles down the road. My dad couldn't understand when I said, "Oh yeah, there's a pub at the end of the street," in American language, a bit like Australian actually. Down the end of the street can be a few miles away, so you jump in the car. He just thought we could walk like English style to the end of the street, about 100 yards away. So we went in there, and all they had on the shelf of English beer was brown ale. So he started drinking brown ale, and every night we'd go in there. Because my dad, like, a typical northeast guy, he would go to the social club every night. So every night he wanted to go to the pub. So we'd go down to the pub, get something to eat. He'd be on his brown ale. And on his very last night, the guy comes up to him really proud, and he said, "Just for you, Mr. Roberts, we've got a special delivery. It's in tomorrow. We've ordered a couple of crates of brown ale." And he looked at the guy and he went, "I'm leaving in the morning." So he left the pub with a couple of crates of brown ale, which they've probably still got on the back shelf somewhere.
What a classic.
There you go.
Not my favourite
I
drink.
had John Smith. I had John Smith when I was over there. Do you guys have that still?
Yep.
The John Smith was like a smooth.
It is.
That one. I had that when I was at the ground. I remember that in 2009, thinking, "My God, what is this warm beer that you guys drink?" But yeah, I actually got right onto it. I loved it.
Yeah. John Smiths. I've quaffed many a John Smiths. It's not bad actually.
Can I just ask, Ray, when you were at the ground in 2009, Ray, could you sit anywhere you wanted? Because I imagine there was plenty of seats.
I was actually playing in goal on that day. They called me up. It was Brad Jones, and he let 4 goals in. They said, "Is there any other Aussies in the ground that can go in keeper? Because we've had a shocker." And I said, "Yeah, right, here I come."
Do you know
I had a good day that day.
We'd gone 8.5 minutes without talking about football, and the first comment was a barbed one. Well done, Macca. Well done.
Start an argument in an empty room, Macca.
I know. Anyway, fellas,
some headlines.
I was just going to say, seeing as Mac has brought us in line and back on script, let's do it. Where we're going to start today? Should we start with? We'll start with the Champions League, boys. Shall we? Shall we start with the tune, Steve?
Come on.
All right, then I'll go. The other one. Yeah, got you.
Everybody's talking about tonight's historic Glasgow meeting between Scotland and England, but 2 Newcastle United players are having their fair share of the limelight about their international futures. Scotland manager Steve Clarke has confirmed that his continued interest in Elliot Anderson, and also refused to rule out a move for Harvey Barnes. Clarke, of course, called up Anderson for last week's Euro qualifying match against Cyprus and tonight's 150th anniversary match against England, but the 20-year-old midfielder pulled out due to an injury, casting doubts on his fledgling Scotland career. Barnes, meanwhile, is reportedly deliberating a switch of allegiance after playing once for England in a friendly win 3 years ago. Newcastle are also ready to fight it out with other Premier League heavyweights for the right to sign Ivan Toney. Controversial this. According to Football Transfers, Eddie Howe is looking to add more firepower to his team, and Toney seems to be the right fit. Rumour mill suggests that quite a few clubs, including Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur, have also shown an interest in the Brentford forward. The 27-year-old previously spent 3 seasons with Newcastle between 2015 and 2018. And also on the Magpie headlines, yesterday we saw some CGI images that Newcastle United released, and the name of their proposed fan zone at the Strawberry Place behind the ground. If approved to James's Park, stack powered by Seller, will introduce a food and drink option amongst other services for supporters who attend matches at St James's Park. That's all for the Black and White's persuasion this morning.
And two things for us to follow up on a bit later on. Ivan Toney, would you really want him because of his background? And we'll have a chat about the fan zone as well, Steve. But next in line from the news headline perspective, seeing as the barbed comments were winging their way from Wearside, we shall go across to the last team to lift a decent piece of silverware in the northeast, Rye Borough.
Well, making Middlesbrough headlines today, Michael Carrick has expressed his satisfaction after a busy summer transfer window, bringing in at least a dozen players joining Middlesbrough's first team squad, with businesses continuing right up until transfer deadline. Carrick has expressed belief that he finally has the winning squad at his disposal. Come on, Michael. Middlesbrough have endured a poor start to the season. Thanks again for that line in there. Managing only one draw in the first 5 matches. Post-international break, though, Borough will be returning to action with a trip to Blackburn on Saturday. The match in Lancashire will kick off a testing run for Carrick and Co. in both Championship and League Cup. Before the month's end, Middlesbrough will have a massive home league game against Southampton, wedged between away fixtures at Sheffield Wednesday and Watford. Then there will also be the League Cup engagement against third-tier Bradford City to be taken care of. For those who are still looking to attend the Bradford match as well, it's bad news because once again the Borough fans have sold out the tickets of a allocation of 4,056 tickets. All gone, Macca, by the mighty Middlesbrough fans. We are selling out away grounds like they are absolute nothing, downing them like they're a John Smith and Rye in 2009. Meanwhile, one big question remains unanswered for Borough. Will Michael Carrick push Matt Clark into the thick of actions? Obviously, we've seen Matt Clark not play a game since moving from Brighton, and he has returned to training last week after almost the year out with a back problem. Another player Carrick seriously needs in these desperate times is Anthony Jicksteel. The right back is still recuperating from a leg injury he sustained in pre-season, hoping for a quick return for Matt Clark and Anthony Jicksteel to bolster the Borough defence.
Good stuff. And now Sunderland news. Macca, go for it.
Yeah, so Joe Bellingham won Player of the Month for August after being influential in Sunderland's first home win of the season, scoring 2 goals against Rotherham. Pierre Ekwa has admitted that since he joined Sunderland in January, he's become a much better player than he was before he joined, which is a really good thing. And also, my mind's just gone blank. Can you help me out, Dave?
Yeah, of course I can. The thrashing of Southampton, the beginning of the month.
Oh, that's it, yes.
Yep.
League Managers, it's... that game got the League Managers Association Performance of the Week. So that's encouraging as well. That's brilliant. Because like you see, that result, it feels like decades ago now, but that result was actually, not just really important, but fantastic.
Yep.
And hopefully the Black Cats will look to build on that result going into 2 tricky games, I would say, both on the road against QPR and then Blackburn. So,
and Mogga picks up the trophy as well because it's the LMA's award, of course, the League Managers Association. So that's the news headlines, fellas. If we can, just jumping on Ivan Toney. Obviously, the guy's going to be coming back to football, Steve. He's had a bit of a checkered recent history regarding betting offences. Yeah, absolutely. The FA were seeking a 15-month ban for Toney after he did come out and say, look, I was involved in gambling, but I was actually I'm the fall guy for some of my friends. But the fact that he's breached those regulations on betting on football matches. Is he the kind of guy, a striker in his own right and can score goals? But is he somebody you'd want at the club?
No. Simple answer, because from our perspective, he bet against Newcastle. That really, as far as football fans, is unforgivable. And I don't understand where this link has come from. I've got to be perfectly honest. Newcastle, got rid of him. Rafa Benitez saw something that he didn't like. There was 13 bets. I mean, this is all out there, so this isn't allegedly. This has been proven. Of the 13 bets, 11 were against Newcastle, whilst Toney was on loan at another club. The other 2 bets related to a game, Wigan against Aston Villa, whilst the player was on loan at Wigan, but he wasn't part of the squad. A further 15 of the 126 bets or instructions to bet were placed by Toney to score in 9 different matches, all of which he played in. So look, 2 things from this. For me, because he bet against Newcastle, I don't think that's a great move. I don't know where this idea comes that he'd be a perfect fit for Newcastle. I think we've got a much better player in Alexander Isak. Callum Wilson can still score goals too. I just think this is paper talk, agent talk, call it what you will. I just don't see this happening. I think it's a strange one, and I think he will get help, or he will have had help now. I think the most important thing for him is that he learns from his mistakes and he doesn't do this again. Do I think he's a good player? I've been impressed with him at Brentford, no doubt about it. Prior to the betting allegations and then conviction, I think it was one that got away. I wouldn't say that, because he didn't really have an opportunity to show what he could do at Newcastle United. Much the same as a lot of strikers who we've had through our hands. Niall Ranger springs to mind, somebody who people were talking about as the next big thing. Didn't really have a chance to do anything at Newcastle, and subsequently went on to his career went on to nosedive. But we've had so many over the years who've been talked about as the next big thing and haven't really materialised. But he'll do a job. I think Ivan Toney fits probably the likes of like a Crystal Palace more than he would fit a Newcastle United. But it's a simple answer from me, Dave. No, I don't want to see him at Newcastle. Don't want to see him in a black and white shirt, and I just don't think he's the kind of player that would elevate us to the standards that we're hoping to achieve.
Now,
can I just say on Ivan Toney, if you don't mind? Obviously, we've done this subject to death, but Newcastle, obviously, were taken over by the Saudis, and whatever opinion you've got, obviously, some fans like it, some didn't. Wouldn't you think that Newcastle would definitely be distancing themselves from the Ivan Toney thing, because they've just got over one controversial issue, and now to bring Toney in with the betting scandal and stuff like that, you would think you'd think they'd be distancing themselves from that, wouldn't you, Steve?
Yeah, look, I mean, you say we've got over the Saudi issue. I mean, that in itself is a new story today. There's constant opinions from different factions about the ownership. I think that'll rumble on, Mac. I really do. We had the people campaigning outside the ground. I've seen a few podcasts where some of our podcasters have gone up and confronted these people outside the ground, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. I've had to play catch up on some of these, but I just don't understand what where some of these people were coming from, going up and filming what was going on. But that's for a different day and a different discussion. But I do think, look, I don't think this is something that Newcastle United would do at this moment in time. I think I think you're right. It would be controversial if Toney came. And listen, he's got the opportunity to change. I think the FA wanted to ban Toney for 15 months, but they reduced the suspension because obviously he was diagnosed with gambling addiction and he pleaded guilty to the charges. So, he's clearly got to be given the opportunity to change. That's the thing. He needs to be given the support from his current club, Brentford. I don't think it'll happen, mate. I don't think he'll come. And I think Newcastle's owners, and the people who are running the club on a day-to-day basis would be very careful to avoid this kind of negativity, this kind of PR. So I would agree with you, Mac. I don't think Newcastle will go down this road.
It gives an interesting slant to Newcastle United currently and going on into the future, Steve, because I remember when I was involved in moving a few players around, and that was a long time ago now. I was working very closely with Real Salt Lake in the US. Now that's owned by a Mormon family, and Salt Lake City is a big. It's probably the central population centre for the Mormon religion, the Mormon church. And I always remember talking to Garth Lagerwey, who was the general manager there, and he kept saying to me, any players you send across, I need them vetting. They can't drink alcohol, they can't do this, they can't do that, because of the strict understanding and requirements that the owners of the football club place on, players representing the football club. And this was all to do with the Mormon church. Now, I'm just wondering, with Newcastle United, now it is the Saudi ownership, and there is that question of gambling, which is, outlawed, of alcohol, which is outlawed. I'm just wondering if that would now play some part of decision-making for players coming into the club. And maybe Toney is the first example where, cultural issues now touch on should they or shouldn't they, would they or wouldn't they. Do you see that being a factor in recruitment going forward for Newcastle?
100%, yeah, I do think that. I mean, look, they've got a network now of people who make the decisions. Dan Ashworth is in charge of recruitment and works hand in hand, with Eddie Howe, and I'm sure Tyndall has a part to play as well. The scouts go out and they'll be given a job and given a list of players, but I think they look very carefully into what's going on behind the scenes and what they do in their social life. And I think it's following the blueprint, I guess, of what Alex Ferguson used to do at Manchester United. I'm not sure if it was Rye or Mac. I mentioned this the other day, but Alex Ferguson used to be very, very hands-on. He used to keep an eye on what players were doing, not just on the pitch but also off the pitch. And I think there was a couple of infamous situations where I think some of the younger players at Manchester United, the class of '92, couldn't understand how they would turn up at training the next day and find themselves fined because Alex Ferguson had found they'd breached like the nightclub rule where they'd been out too late, or they should have been at home and somebody had been following them and told Alex Ferguson, I saw Ryan Giggs here or I saw Ryan Giggs there, and that kind of stuff it is very important. But I think anything to do with anything which could be controversial or anything that could be deemed controversial, either in the eyes of the Saudis or as far as being a football player is concerned and not acting professionally, I think it's watched, and I think that's the way to do it really. But our success has been based on a few things over the last couple of years, but I think it's been based on the fact as well of how people conduct themselves in a dressing room, how they're going to affect the actual the atmosphere in a dressing room, what are they like after the match, are they socialisers. There's loads of different things that go into making a good dressing room. You can't just throw a load of people together and hope for the best, and I think that's what Newcastle have got right. But they want to steer clear of controversy. I mean, we've had our fair share already this year, and Jamal Lascelles being attacked. He was the victim in that particular story, but it's still not a good look to see players out and about on the town at 4 o'clock in the morning getting involved in trouble, whether they're a victim or not. And that kind of thing you do want to try and avoid, because we've had so many years at Newcastle have been on the front pages for the wrong reasons rather than being on the back pages for the right reasons. And I wish Ivan Toney all the best. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I just don't see him coming to Newcastle and playing a part. And it's maybe a few years ago, if Newcastle had managed to get the best out of him when he was at the club, it might have been a different story. But Rafa clearly saw something that he didn't like. Newcastle got rid of him, and it would surprise me if they make a bid for him in January.
Let's test the championship water then. Proven goal scorer, tore the championship apart when he played down there, scored goals in the Premier League. We'll test the Aussie water first. Would you have him at the Borough, right?
Oh, sorry, I was just putting a bet on Brentford against Newcastle. Sorry.
Very funny.
Sorry, I've been a bit quiet. For Brentford paying $5.50 this weekend, I thought that was a good shout. Sorry, boys. Ivan Toney. Would I take him in the championship? Of course I would. I mean, it's Ivan Toney. He's a proven championship goal scorer. Look, Carrick has, touching on what Steve says, Carrick has always said when he brings a player in that it's more about the player's personality, whether he fits into that dressing room, whether he can get along with the group and stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see if a player with any conjecture could come in and slot into Michael Carrick's plans and stuff like that. I liken Michael Carrick to Sir Alex. I feel like he doesn't allow any of that off-field drama, and I think the club would probably steer away from it. I just don't think they'd want that sort of publicity or anything like that. to be, you know, whether it's, you know, goals or not. But I think we've always, as a club, sort of, you know, tried to stay away from anyone with a bit of conjecture like that. So look, I would take him just because he's a proven goal scorer. I've seen him training alone by himself, and that's the other thing. You know, he hasn't played part of a squad now because he's had to be forced to train alone as well. So whether he can fit back into training with a team and how he fits in with other players, and, you know, will other players be off him or, you know, fit along with him or understand it? Because, you know, he's come out and said in one of his statements that he took the fall for a lot of players that are already doing it and just haven't been caught. So I'm sure that would have put off a few players around the leagues as well. So I would take him just because he's a proven goal scorer. I think he, you know, everyone in this world deserves a second chance, you know, and, you know, I think he's no different to that. You know, we've all made mistakes. Obviously, some are worse than others, obviously, but I think he deserves a second chance. But I don't think he'll come to Middlesbrough. I'd like him, but I just don't think Michael Carrick would put that in the dressing room.
Would you have him at Sunderland, Macca?
Well, anyone that bets against Newcastle, but
the opposite, yes, the opposite argument. Good man, yes.
If there was a block put on his betting, because what would worry me is if he came to Sunderland and he started betting against Sunderland, and you're thinking to yourself, well, if you're playing out on the pitch and you're betting against Sunderland to lose, are you really going to be giving it your all? So there would have to be some sort of understanding that he literally couldn't bet. But he is a proven goal scorer, like you say, you know, we couldn't really turn our noses down at strikers, but yeah, there would have to be some sort of agreement put in place.
I've got a good betting story, lads.
Someone to monitor him as well, because obviously he came out and said he's got that gambling problem, so the club would have to monitor him closely if it was.
It's really tough though. It's really tough monitoring, because I've refereed a game which was fixed. And it was written as a full chapter in a book by an investigative journalist who was he released a book on match fixing called The Fix. His name's Declan Hill. He's a Canadian, and there's a full chapter on a game I refereed in Singapore which was fixed, and I refereed the game, and you know it was hugely fixed, but I had no idea. So it's all right saying, you know, we need to monitor him, but you just don't know. But Steve, you were gonna say something.
Yeah, I've got a great betting story, completely unrelated to footballers, but related to me. Kevin Dillon.
Steve's a fixer.
Kevin Dillon signed for Newcastle many years ago, and you know, I thought, you know, he was often at the bookies, 12-1, 15-1, 20-1. So I used to my regular bet was taking Kevin Dillon to be the first goal scorer in Newcastle United games. So I used to go up to the bookies, put me £1 on, and pay me tax, and you know, as each game goes by and he doesn't score, you think, well, next week could be the week. His odds are going up. Anyway, Kevin Dillon finished his career at Newcastle without scoring a goal, which meant that I lost quite a few £1 over Kevin Dillon's career. He signed then for Reading Football Club. And what happened on Kevin's debut for Reading?
Go on, he did it.
He scored. And I didn't have a bet on. Unbelievable, Jeff. So, yes, I decided from that day on, me and football betting was over.
Yeah, sadly for Steve, he was the club's longest servant and played 765 games for Newcastle. £1 a time.
Speaking of bets, this is something I wouldn't have thought, but obviously because Scott Brown left Fleetwood as manager, Lee Johnson is back in management really quickly. So he's now the Fleetwood manager. And obviously, because I'm a big Hibs fan, I really wanted to get Rye's opinion on Nick Montgomery. He's now the Hibs new manager. So, and I think he managed out in Australia, didn't he? Right, I was going to call you Nick there.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. So Nick Montgomery is obviously was the Central Coast Mariners coach, which was actually the coach of Sammy Severa's ex-club. Obviously, Sammy Severa coming to Middlesbrough, but
good burn link.
Nick Montgomery was. Thank you. I had to get it in. He's a very, very, very lovely man. He actually played for Sheffield United, if anyone remembers it, as a defensive midfielder from 2000 2012, I think it was. He was a Sheffield Sheffield United. And I used to love watching him because he was a no questions asked sort of player back in the Sheffield United days. But he's a very lovely human man. He was actually being tipped to take over for Graham Arnold at the Socceroos. They likened him to be the next, the coach of Australia, the way he was heading. But Hibs have dipped in and grabbed him first. And what he's done at Central Coast Mariners is, he's guided them to the A-League Championship after becoming their coach in 2021. They won the championship in 2023. So, and in the first season, they finished, I think, second or third. So he's turned them around completely here in the in the A-League. So, his credentials are, right there, ready for the picking. And he's obviously had a great senior career. He knows the English game well. So it's going to be interesting if he can take that into Hibs. But he's also played a couple of games for Scotland under 21s.
Yeah.
So he's even though he's born in Leeds, he actually put his faith and love into Scotland. So look, I hope it goes well. Another Aussie coach is everything we love here in Australia. It just does amazing things for us when we see like Ange Postecoglou and obviously now Nick going over because it makes people get up and take notice of football here in Australia, and that's if any sort of headlines that we can get for that we'll take. So I wish him all the best, and I hope that Hibs. I know that Hibs have gotten a really, really good coach and a really good man.
It's Ange's fault.
Oh, brilliant. Always can rely on the Aussie expert. Honestly, brilliant, right? That's a fantastic glowing report.
There you go. Can you report me 6 numbers for the lottery, please? If it's that fantastic, I'll whatever numbers you give me, mate, I'll stick the money on.
Can winning when the next sellout will be at home?
Yeah, I got you. Let me just finish this bet on Brentford against Newcastle here, and then I'll get you the ticket.
Right, fellas, it's time for us to take a quick break. By the way, I played a real bad one this morning. You know how we were in the 20s, high 20s yesterday. Temperatures dropped. I was fully expecting autumn to hit, so I put a big thick jumper on. I'm sweating like a bull in a sauna. I really am. It's ridiculous. So I'm going to go and mop myself down while we do a bit of a break on the Northeast Footy Brekky right across the Northeast on the Red, the Cat and the Tune. I haven't heard that in yonks, and Macca's even whistling to it. Suzanne Vega with DNA and Tom's Diner. Do you know there was I suppose famous in his own living room, there was a radio presenter across Teesside many decades ago who was your old traditional BBC-style presenter, and he was of mature age. And suddenly the local commercial radio station took him on to do a phone-in on the evening, which they thought would be a great idea. Sadly, though, he didn't know anything about modern contemporary music. And he played that song, and bearing in mind it's Suzanne Vega with DNA, and the song is called Tom's Diner. And he announced it as Suzanne Vegan and done away with Tom's Dinner. It was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Bless him. Anyway, Macca, not Macca, sorry, Rye, you had a bit of fun for us because we've been far too serious this morning. Far too serious.
I've come up with a little game for us and the lads. After yesterday's antics, I thought, look, that was a lot of fun, and I've got to get my knowledge back in. It helps me as well from across the water. So I've come up with a little "Who am I?" and cue the music. The rise. Who am I? Like a little. There you go.
What was that? I missed that. What was that?
That's like the ad, the little highlight intro for the rise. Who am I? There you go. So it's Rise Who Am I for your Tuesday morning into your ears. And you are Macca, Dave, listeners out there on the WhatsApp, and obviously Steve, I've got to try and guess the player I am. Cue the dark music.
You've got to give the WhatsApp number out. If you can guess who Rise player is, Rise player, then all you got to do is you WhatsApp us on this number 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. Go for it. Drumbeat.
Okay.
Drum roll.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I have played with Riyad Mahrez,
have you?
Eden Hazard, and Andy Carroll. My middle name is Noel and I was born in Manchester. That is all you get for right now.
And it's not Gallagher.
That is all you've got. And it's not Gallagher. It's not Gallagher. So the clues again for those out there, I have played with Riyad Mahrez, Eden Hazard, and Andy Carroll. My middle name is Noel, and I was born in Manchester.
I'm crap at
Have
this.
a think, lads. Have a think, lads.
Stevie?
Get in on the WhatsApp.
I'm thinking about it.
I would think if anybody on anybody from this trio would get it, I was going to put my money on Stevie, but then they'd call me Ivan Toney. Oh no, he bets against Newcastle, doesn't he? That's what it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
It's a good one, that.
it is, isn't it?
I think one of our listeners will get this. That's a tough one. It's a good one, right? Though it's a good one.
So he's played with Mahrez, Hazard, and Carroll.
Mahrez. That's correct.
His middle name is Noel, and he was born in Manchester.
That's correct.
Who is he?
That's right.
Come on, pull us out.
Who is he? For Rise, who am I?
Well, one thing for sure, it's
There's
woke everybody
the
up that
segment.
sleep.
He's been on the VB already. You can tell it's the afternoon in Australia.
I want a little intro tidbit for your listeners. There you go.
Okay, so give us a hand. 0330 043 2002. It's a WhatsApp. Just send us a text or a voicemail. You can call us live and get on the show. No, send us a WhatsApp. 0330 043 2002. Please help. Right, are we doing? Is this little competition? Multifaceted. Are we going to get some more clues later, or is that it?
You will as we go on. If anyone can't get it, we will. I've got more clues as we progress throughout the show, and the next one, it'll help you a little bit more. Don't you worry about that. But right now, that's all you're going to get. I want to see how cluey the lads are and the listeners are.
To quote a famous Monty. Go on, Macca.
I might even give Dave a chance to come up with a jingle for it as well.
No, I'm not that clever. I'm good, mate, but I'm not that good. I was just going to say, in true Monty Python style, you can tell he's just making it up as he goes along. But there you go. So it is Rise. What's that player? Brilliant. 033 or 043 2002. It's a WhatsApp. So just to recap, he's played with Mahrez, Hazard, and Carroll. Middle name is Noel. He was born in Manchester. Right, look, fellas, we've done betting, we've done gambling, we did alcohol earlier. We might as well continue.
We spoke a bit of beer.
Yep. Yeah. Drogba, Pogba, even. Drogba, Pogba. There's no difference. Chelsea, Manchester United. There's not much difference. Pogba facing a ban over anti-doping allegations.
Yeah, this is absolutely crazy. We've seen a lot of these stories in boxing, but never seen something like this in football for a while. Obviously, Juventus midfielder Paul Pogba is being provisionally suspended now from playing because of an anti-doping offence. If found guilty of doping, he could face a ban of between 2 and 4 years. Juventus said in a statement that from the 11th of September 2023, the footballer Paul Labile Pogba received a precautionary suspension order from the National Anti-Doping Tribunal following the results of tests carried out on the 20th of August 2023. The club reserves the rights to consider the next steps. So there was a response from his agent, Rafaela Pimenta, said she was awaiting the second sample and cannot have an opinion before the results. What is certain is that Paul Pogba never wanted to break any rules. This is interesting, this, because it's sometimes things that players can take, or sportsmen can take, or sportswomen can take. It can be completely innocent, this kind of situation. We've got to point that out. But obviously, testosterone is a hormone that increases the endurance of athletes. Pogba's got 3 days to produce a counter-analysis of the result to NATO, which is obviously the organisation. This is going to run for a while. This story, I would imagine, it is going to be very, very interesting to see. What the final outcome is of this. But obviously, if found guilty, that could potentially end his career, because 2 to 4 years. He's not getting any younger, Pogba. And I know we discussed him on the show the other day. I highlighted him as one of those players who, maybe he's a bit of a prima donna. He walked into Manchester United's dressing room. He's a big character, but he seems to have a high opinion of himself and very little opinion of anybody else. And how can a manager manage him? But this is an interesting turn in his career. I just wanted to know what you lads thought.
And I think it's fair to say, before we go any further, that he's still got to get the B sample tested. So we are still awaiting the outcome on that particular case. But it's, we see it in athletics an awful lot, don't we? Where unless you're Russian at the moment, where we're trying to clamp down, or the organisers, the organisations are trying to clamp down on doping because of unfair advantage it gives. I'd ask the question, what unfair advantage would it give to a player? Is it just, endurance, the physical side of it? Is it, what?
Not if you play for Borough.
Yeah, I know. It would take an awful lot of testosterone to lift us from the bottom of the table at the moment, where we currently stand. But what advantage does it give to a player?
It's interesting as well, because a lot of these boys are on, they take the supplements. You see them all with their own energy drinks and Red Bulls and all that sort of stuff. And, it's one of them could clearly, might flag, you don't know. There might be a new energy drink company that Pogba wants to get behind, and he's drank a couple, and all of a sudden they've got something in there that you're not actually allowed to take. And it's all a little bit sort of, who knows. But Paul Pogba has to be one of the biggest sort of sliding tails that I think I've ever come across. I mean, I remember, was it when he had the extortion case with his brother? You know what I mean? The extortion attempt against him. And I remember back then, I'll read you a quote what he said back then, and this just makes me think of who he is as a man. So he said at the time, when his brother was trying to had an alleged organised armed extortion attempt, he said, "Money changes people. It can break up a family. It can create a war. Sometimes I was just by myself thinking, I don't want to have money anymore. I just don't want to play anymore. I just want to be with normal people so they will love me for me. Not for the fame, not for the money. Sometimes it's really tough." So I feel for him. But look, what a sliding, in a career that could have been, and an amazing sort of young starlet that, unfortunately, will be probably remembered for all of the wrong reasons rather than the right reasons on the pitch. So, I will wait to see what the sample is. But, it's a sad tale of affairs. Macca?
I'm the same. I really decline to comment muchly until we see what the B sample is, because innocent until proven guilty and all that. So, but I would say that he is a big character, and obviously I think he disrupted the dressing room of Man United, didn't he?
Big time.
I wonder if that had something to do with his emotions and stuff like that. It
was reported that Carrick had to pull him into lines a few times. Obviously, Michael Carrick, the current now Middlesbrough manager, but there is reports, and they were using it as Michael's management sort of style, was that he often was the one that went over to Paul Pogba to pull him into line and could put the arm around the shoulder, but could also give him the kick up the boot that he needed. And apparently, everyone back then said that Michael was, one of Paul's greatest, influences in terms of getting him to behave on and off the pitch. So yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, that's maybe what he needed. An arm around the shoulder, or sometimes a kick up the bahuki. And he got that from Carrick. So Carrick's management style, like you say, was called in and needed then. So interesting stuff with Pogba.
Yeah, it's going to run. It's going to be one of those stories that runs and runs. I think, you know what I mean. It's and as you say, we've got to wait until we see what the second sample provides. But and again, a lot of these things, sometimes they happen, and there can be a complete mistake. You might take something which, might be able to, give you a bit of a boost, but you don't realise it could be a drink, could be something you eat. You just don't know what it is, and it can be an unfortunate situation that develops. But we'll watch it. I'm sure it won't be the only time we'll discuss it on this show.
No.
Yeah, interesting one. Well, moving forward then, we've been talking home internationals over the last couple of days, and of course there's the not so small matter of Scotland against England coming up in a matter of hours when England are going to beat Scotland. And not that I've got personal interest in it. Come on, England. But Mac is biting. Wales, hope's still alive. They had a 2-0 win over Latvia, so
Yeah, I listened to this game last night.
Yeah.
It should have been 3-4. They had so many chances. And then obviously they got the goal through the penalty, as they call him, Rambo, who scored the penalty, and then they got the late goal through David Brooks. But they should have put the game out of sight well before they did. And I think the team that they played, Latvia, I think they were just sort of trying to get back in it when it went 1-0, but obviously when it went 2-0, like literally with seconds to go, they just the game was up. But good result for them, because Robert Page is under pressure, big style, I think there, and he needed a result really. And as some of the pundits were saying last night, you can go out and score 4 or 5 goals, but as long as you win, and it just it doesn't matter how you win, as long as you win, it's still only 3 points. So I think they've got 2 important home games, I think, in October, when the next international break is. So I think they're sort of saying that they want Croatia to run away with the group, and then maybe Wales can try and finish second if they can. I think that's the best they can hope for, because obviously Croatia got that win last night against Armenia. So interesting.
I mean, look, it was a good result for Wales. I mean, they have kept their hopes alive, and goals from Aaron Ramsey, David Brooks, led to that 2-0 win. But it is going to be difficult for them. But listen, they've kept their hopes alive. That's all we can ask for. They haven't better luck than the two respective Irish countries, and that that in itself. The Wales, as I said, they've been perennial strugglers at international level, and they seem to be on the mission. The big problem they've got, I think, is finding that Gareth Bale replacement.
Gareth Bale,
he was a talisman for them, and they relied very heavily on him to get through group stages and do well in the big tournament stage. But they just need to find that replacement thing. A lot of hopes have been put on the shoulders of Brennan Johnson, aren't they? I don't think
he missed a handful of chances last night, Steve. He could have scored at least a hat-trick, and I think he missed a couple of one-on-ones as well, and maybe when he should have scored, he put the ball wide. But I've always said, lads, I don't know what you think, but take Gareth Bale and Ramsey out of that Wales team, and they're just a bang average team. They are. They're a bang average team.
Well, you've already,
and I know it's taken out a lot, but it just everyone when they had Ramsey and both Ramsey and Bale playing at the same time, everyone was waxing lyrical about Wales and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, well, once you lose Ramsey and Bale, it'll be interesting to see how you cope then.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how Brennan Johnson goes. Obviously, he got a big move to Tottenham Hotspur from Nottingham Forest, and I think Brennan Johnson has got a pretty bright career ahead of him. He's only 22, and I know he plays as a forward for Wales, so I think he's got a bit of hope there. And I think obviously that Ethan Ampadu as well. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He's a youngster that was at Chelsea with the big mop of hair that now went to Leeds as well. I think he's there's 2 youngsters there coming through that I think are quite exciting for Wales in the future. But there's definitely some big names in there, and when you do lose them, like any club, you know what I mean, or international team, when you're not top of the tables, it's hard. But I still think they've got some young talented players in there in Wales, and I think that a lot of them are playing for big clubs, you know what I mean. So as I said, I've just railed it off 2 there but we think of Harry Wilson as well. He was the ex-Fulham, now the ex-Liverpool, now at Fulham. Jordan James is one that springs to mind for me as well. He's at Birmingham, I believe, and he's I think he's going to be a right star in the Championship. Give him a couple of years. So it's interesting to see where Wales will end up. So I think he's done very well for Birmingham. If you've watched any Birmingham games, Jordan is actually is a very talented midfielder, and he's only 19 years of age. So if they can hold on to them in Brennan Johnson, Ampadu, and even Jordan James, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, they've got tough games coming up. I mean, it's going to be like Mission Impossible. They've got to play Croatia at home, Armenia away, and Turkey at home. That's the final 3 games. So it is all to play for in Group D, but it's going to be a tough task. And Brennan Johnson needs to get his shooting boots on, I think, in the next 3 games to if Wales have got any chance of getting through. But also just continuing on the international theme. Portugal recorded their biggest win in the Euros, a 9-0 win versus Luxembourg. So, I mean that's an amazing score. You don't see that very often,
isn't it?
That's how you do it.
Well, of course it is. I'm just thinking, what's the biggest win you've seen, lads? I was trying to I've seen a few high-scoring games at Newcastle. I think probably the end of season game at Newcastle is the one when we got promoted in 92, 93, and we were 6-0 up at half time against Leicester, and we went on to win 7-1. I saw that, and I saw Newcastle beat Spurs at home 7-1 as well, under Kevin Keegan. But I think those are the 2 biggest wins that I've actually seen as far as home games are concerned. What about you guys? Is there a big win that you've been to?
I watched Middlesbrough beat Man City, but that was obviously from across the pond. I watched Middlesbrough beat Man City back in 2008, 8-1, one of the glory days for Middlesbrough in the last game of the season. That was one of my favourite memories as a big win. But I think the biggest one... Were you really? Yeah. Oh my God, Rockenbach still broke that net. I tell you, what a game that was. When Afonso Alves was going to set the world alight, we still believed at that point. But the biggest win I've ever seen was actually in 2002. We had a match here when I was local, and it was a Socceroos or Australia back then, and it was very still early days for Australian football, and we were starting to do the qualification for what's now the Asian Football Confederation Cup, and we sort of started back then, and it was sort of really early days for this competition. We had a lot of different teams come in, and I watched Australia beat American Samoa, all right, 31-0. That's not a lie. 11th of April 2001, Australian Socceroos then beat American Samoa, and it's still the largest scoreline ever to be recorded. But yeah, Australia beat American Samoa 31-0, and I still remember it because the news broke and everything was going crazy and it was unfair, and then Australian got called into being ruthless and rude, and American Samoa would never be invited back to Australia, and it was incredible. But yeah, 31-0 is the biggest one I can remember actually seeing. But my favourite's obviously the 8-1 over Man City.
Well, do you know what the record score is, Macca, before you give yours? Do you want the record score? That used to be Arbroath against Bonaccord, which was 36-0.
36-0,
in 1885.
Jeez.
That record was broken, though, on Halloween 2002 in Madagascar. Anybody want to hazard a guess of what the scoreline was?
42-0.
Right, well, that's your guess, Dave.
I'm going to say... What is it, 36 months?
It was 36.
Plus 10, minus 3, 8, 7.
Don't forget pi.
Move the 2.
Square root of
across
pi.
1. Square root of 3. I'm going to say 41.
41-0?
I'll say 46.
Wow. So, the record now, which is in the Guinness Book of Records, AS Edema 149. Eso Lemern 0. Yeah, 149-0.
No.
149.
That's a goal in less than every 30 seconds.
Mate,
absolutely impossible.
That's a good first innings of the cricket, mate. That scoreline. Holy Jesus.
Apparently, this was a derby match.
149.
This was a derby match, and there was a pre-planned protest over refereeing decisions that had gone against them during a previous 4-team playoff tournament by some considerable margin. So there we go. It was part of like a round-robin tournament or something, but there was a protest in the middle of it.
Do you know what?
Yeah, 149 own goals they scored.
I would love to think they lost the title that season on goal difference. I'd love to think.
Yeah.
So what they actually did was, because of the protest, they scored 149 own goals, with spectators saying that after each kick-off, the ball was kicked into their own goal, with the opposition players standing and looking bemused. It was reported that the spectators descended on the ticket booths to demand a refund. Following the match, the Malgazy Football Federation suspended the coach for 3 years and 4 of the team's players as well. Unbelievable story that, like, absolutely brilliant.
It reminds me of me on the PlayStation. Obviously, when I've been on the PlayStation, sort of not knowing which way the ball's going, so I'm sort of kicking it back, and the commentators go, "Oh, he scored an own goal."
Well, the referee wasn't punished because the situation was deemed to be out of his control.
Absolutely. Correct decision.
It sounds like the goalkeeper was blind as well, to be fair.
Maka, what's the biggest result that you maybe see that you've seen at Sunderland?
Oh, do we have to? I went to Everton and we got beat 7-1, and I went all the way down to Southampton and we got beat 8-0, and our fans were singing we're going to win 9-8. Yeah, that was just I couldn't even put that into words.
That's another.
Thinking, well, you travelled to Southampton all the way down to Southampton for that. To be fair, it was a Saturday 3:00 kick-off, so it wasn't moved around for TV, thank goodness. But you travel all the way down there for that, and you think, what's going on? Are you? The blind school would have gave them a better game that day at Southampton.
Good man.
Well, lucky you got them 5-0 on their trip back up north on the weekend.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is it. And I wanted to ask Dave about this Middlesbrough Man City, the Middlesbrough Man City game. Would you be working for Middlesbrough at the time, or were you working for Sky at the time, Dave?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't working for Borough. I mean, it's working directly for Borough is very limited. But obviously, I've been working around the football club for a long time.
The commentary was legendary on that.
2000. Yeah, it was 2008, wasn't it? Right, if memory serves me right.
2008. Last game of the season.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, 2008. I was working abroad, but I was back, so I went to the game, and it was like the ideal game to go back to just to watch. So I was there as a fan, effectively, rather than.
I remember the commentary. I'm sure Ali was working for Radio Tees at that time. I'm sure it was, and the commentary was really good because no one seen the result coming, did you? Literally, no one seen it coming. And obviously, the last game of the season, and Borough just literally went out there and wiped the floor with Man City, which, when you think about it now, obviously, Man City. I was going to say
it's not going to happen again, is it? Nobody's going to do that again. No. So that's for certain. I'll tell you what, fellas, we're well late for the news. Let's do a bit of news, and then we'll come back. We'll pick up after this on the North East Footy Breakfast.
Steve and Rye, the North East Footy Breakfast.
Right across the North East, the red, the cat and the tune.
And just for the man himself, here we go.
Yeah. I've just come down from the Isle of Skye. I'm no very big and I'm awful shy, and the lassies shout when I go by, Donald, where's your trousers?
Marker, where's your trousers? There you go, especially for you, mate, seeing as it is Scotland versus England.
Brilliant, man.
I hope he's got them on.
Well, thankfully this is radio, not television, so we will never know. We will never know. We need a bit of a drum roll here of success because, Rye, that competition you thrust upon us, we've been pulled out of the mire. Yeah, we got to say congratulations to Dunhill, who's a Newcastle fan, who's been through on WhatsApp 0330 043 2002. Rye, give us the question.
The question that I had raised was, who am I, or Rise, who am I, as my little jingle went. The question that I had posed today was, who was this footballer? And they've come through, and it was Danny Drinkwater, of course, lads. Obviously born in Manchester, middle name Noel. The next clue I was going to give...
No, go on then.
Was I signed in 2017 for 35 million, and obviously only ended up playing 12 games for Chelsea. Did Danny Drinkwater, currently without a club as well. Interestingly, 33 years of age is Danny, and finished up at Reading last season in the Championship. But Danny without a club, and good on you to the text line for getting in and getting involved in Rise. Who am I? I've got another one coming for you, lads, in just a short moment to closing the show with. I'm going to make this one a little bit more difficult, though, so stay tuned for that one and get on the WhatsApp if you know who this one will be. We'll get that to you in just a moment.
Okay, so congratulations, Dunhill, who's a Newcastle fan. So Newcastle coming to the fore this
Another
morning.
win for Newcastle.
On Rise Thingy. Yeah, whatever it is. Okay. That hurt. That hurt my throat.
Can't even try it, all right? It's my jingle, okay? TM, copyright. And if I hear that on another station, all right, I'm coming after you.
Okay, good man. Actually, it's done my throat in. Start talking, guys. I don't know how you do it.
Well, Steve, I wanted to talk to you about ticketing issues. The ticketing issues seem to be rumbling on social media. Obviously, I do follow you now, Steve. We are good friends, probably best friends, but we can get into that another day. And I wanted to discuss with you because I've seen on Twitter /X constantly now, because I've liked a few Steve Wraith posts, and now I seem to get flooded with Newcastle things. Thanks for Elon for that, doing that to my Twitter as well. But all I keep seeing is ticketing issues.
Yeah, it's an absolute nightmare, right? Newcastle United Supporters Trust have asked fans to fill in the survey that they put up on their website. There has been 5,400 responses that were received from both trust members and non-members, and a significant number of issues have been highlighted. A good number of which are related to the club's ticketing website, which is something I've mentioned on here before. It's a poor system, and they need to get it right. The underlying message seems to be that inadequate resources are in place to cope with the increased ticketing workload this season, and problems have been encountered, really with the ticket office direct. That there's been lack of communication, which is something that they need to sort out. But this isn't just a Newcastle United issue. This is an issue that seems to be stretching across football fans in general. And, with this being the North East Brekky show, let's talk Sunderland and Middlesbrough as well. And I know just from speaking to Sunderland fans that I know, that there's a lot of them upset with the whole system. The clubs haven't got this right. That's the problem. They've gone into this without consultation in some places, but I just think they haven't read the room correctly. They haven't read the room at all, and they should have maybe drip fed this digital ticketing in this season, but allowing people to have season tickets instead of trying to force it onto everybody. And they've created a rod for their own back at Newcastle. I'm not sure what it's been like for you, Macca, but it has been a bit of a nightmare for some Newcastle fans. But I've spoken to a couple of Sunderland fans, and they're not happy.
No, it's horrific at Sunderland. You can't get through on the phone. You have to send an email in. Or it's do you know what, Steve? What really annoys me about it is that it's a cutting exercise. Like, they're just basically trying to save money, and the fans are getting, they're the ones that are getting treated like just ridiculously. You say, it's really difficult to speak to somebody on the phone, if not nigh impossible, at Sunderland, and the only way you can get through to them is to send them an email. And you imagine, trying to get, obviously, I go to all the away games, so you're trying to get your tickets sorted for the away games, and it's an absolute nightmare. It really is. Luckily, obviously, it doesn't really bother me for the home games because I've got my season tickets anyway, but they were trying to get through for the away games, especially when you only have a limited time as well to apply for your tickets. It's really difficult. It's really difficult. I mean, I'd love to ask Dave, do you ever have any ticketing issues at Middlesbrough, Dave, or is it just people getting tickets is the issue, or what is that?
Well, you can.
What is the issue at the Riverside?
You can contact the ticket office directly at the Riverside. There is a phone number you can call through and speak to a human being, which is obviously it sounds like a big improvement on what's happening elsewhere. So there's always that opportunity. Now, they do get busy. Now, when a ticket office gets busy and they have queues of people, because I don't know if it's the same at Newcastle and Sunderland. I'm assuming it is. You've got a ticket office where you can turn up and you can buy tickets during the week and stuff like that. So if you've got a big game coming up, and I mean, we all know about the travelling potential of the big three clubs in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So when you come to the Thursday or Friday ahead of an away game, and it's a ticket sellout or whatever, and it gets busy, they won't be answering the phone, but you can still reach a human being at the Riverside ticket office, which is a plus. But saying that, isn't this wider than football? Because how many organisations just in the general walk of life, no matter whether it's financial organisations, purchasing, retail, whatever it is, leisure, social, where I think they do their best now, and for you not to speak to a human being. So it's always press 1 for this, press 2 for that, or it's get on to chat with our bot Anna or whatever she's called these days, depending on the organisation. And I'm pulling my hair out at the moment with PayPal because somebody's opened up an account on PayPal using one of my email addresses that I haven't used on PayPal, that isn't linked to a PayPal account. And I'm trying to deal with the fraud department at PayPal and say, hey, somebody is buying and selling and moving money around with a fraudulent account because they've opened this account in my email. I'm getting all the emails for this account in somebody else's name. I've tried logging into this account using this email address, and it's a live account, and it's somebody else's name with a different phone number attached to it because I've tried to reset the password. The personal questions you get asked to reset passwords, I don't recognise any of those questions, and yet I still can't get through to them. And I've made formal complaints. I've taken it to the FCA here in the UK, which is the Financial Conduct Authority, and said, this is not right. But you still can't get resolution on that, and that's a matter of fraud. That's not just customer service.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous, yeah.
So I'm just thinking, this communications issue, this reaching human beings issue in football, I think it's wider than that. It's just, more and more people wanting to engage. Cost savings are, give people 27 buttons to press before you eventually get through to a human being. And the thing that really grips me is, how many times do you try and want to contact an organisation, whether it's football or other, and the contact details now do not give you a phone number anymore? You can't, it just makes it so difficult to speak to a human being.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
And I tell you what I don't like as well is when, I know this is obviously personal to me because obviously I'm having no sight, but when you fill in a contact form on the internet or you fill in a form to join something or whatever, it'll have at the bottom of it, it'll say, please enter this capture code if to prove that you're not a robot. Yeah. And I would rather them just have a checkbox, because obviously the capture code, the software that I have, it doesn't actually tell you what text to read out, but sometimes you can hear the text, but it's like when you had old cassette tapes and they got chewed up in the machine, it's a bit like that when you listen to the actual text coming out of the to find out what the key letters are that you've got to type. It's crazy. Yeah, but that's just
Macca, I didn't think you were old enough to remember cassette tapes, mate. Didn't think you were old enough to remember cassettes.
Yeah, cassettes.
Cassettes, wow.
Back in the day.
Do you all remember cassettes? I'm assuming you do.
I do, yeah.
God,
yeah,
I used to tape the charts.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Top of the pops.
Yeah.
Tape the charts, and you would always have to try and
you'd
always have to try and edit Bruno Brooks out at the start, so that you didn't have the DJ at the start. You'd be pressing the pause button on your little tape recorder, and then going, oh my God, you'd always end up with that yip or whoop at the start.
You'd record a football match, and you'd obviously you would get cassette tapes that were 90 minutes altogether. You can imagine it now. You wouldn't get the whole game in.
Mate, you've got to go 120. Yeah, you've got to go C120s now. If you're going to use cassette tapes, mate, C120s. But did anybody ever spend the extra cash to get metal tapes? Because they were top of the range. They were the DBs of cassettes.
I don't remember that. No, I don't remember metal. Yeah, I was the old plastic bandwagon.
No, that was the type of tape apparently, because you could get, was it chrome was the next one up or something, and then there was metal, which they were always about 3 times as expensive, but it gave you a superior sound quality. So it's all.
If I had a tape recorder and a tape, I'd record this show. That's for sure.
Good man. And we, by the way, we do love those comments that are doing the rounds on social media about this show. I love the fact that somebody says they think we're better than Talk Sport, which is fantastic.
I mean, clearly.
There are other radio stations available, of course. Yeah.
No, look, it's been a great show so far. We're only getting in to the early days of it as well, and I think we're seeing all the feedback on social media, all the listeners commenting and getting in on the WhatsApp. It's been incredible, and we're only going to get bigger and better.
Indeed, we are. And I will give her a plug. We're looking for a sales exec at the moment, so we want somebody to join the team and get out there and make some money, so we can continue to get bigger and better. So, sales execs, if you fancy getting getting involved with what is the fastest growing radio group in the north of England, then come and give us a shout. Any of the email addresses. Advertisements over. Let's get back to tickets then. So how much of a problem is this, Steve, for Newcastle? I mean, we're hearing things of moving season ticket holders around to create bigger corporate areas. We're hearing about ticket checks at away grounds. I mean, it seems to be focusing on Newcastle United.
Yeah, I think it is a big problem, and I think it's just it is gonna get worse, because I think I mentioned that there's a lot of corporate areas, new corporate areas opening, which of course I've got no issue with they've been improving the ground, but I think Newcastle fans have got to brace themselves that for Newcastle to move forward and for success to be delivered on the pitch, money needs to come in, and ticket prices are going to go up. I mean, the ticket prices at St James's Park went up by 3.3% this season for a lot of fans. There's certain fans like myself who are on the 10-year deal who, the 10-year deal got extended because of COVID. We weren't allowed to go to the ground for nearly 2 years. So, our 10-year deal will be coming to an end. It'll be interesting to see what they do for those people, what the offer will be for them. Our tickets will go up, but there's considerable changes, and there's certain areas in the ground where there were ordinary tickets in the Gallagher, for example, and they've created a corporate area upstairs in Shearer's Bar on a match day where you have to buy tickets in pairs. The tickets, I've been led to believe for certain areas, with them being corporate areas, and you're getting some food and a private lounge, anything from £250 to £360, and it's just expensive. It really is, and some of these other corporate areas, you're talking about anything from £800 to £1,200 to go and watch per game, and you can't buy one ticket. You've got to buy two. It's. I don't think it leaves a sour taste in your mouth, because if you want to go, you're going to pay the price. But it's it is going to push people out, and then on top of that, it's just the away ticketing situation we've mentioned on here, where fans are being ID checked at away games, and it just seems to be too many changes all at the same time, and the infrastructure on the website isn't good enough to cope with anybody who wants to get through and has an issue. Somebody wants to raise an issue, might have a complaint, might want to change something. There could have been an issue at home, which means that they need help, maybe changing a ticket from one person to another for a specific game. They might not be able to find that on the website, so they can't get in touch with anybody at the box office because the phones aren't being answered. It's little things like that frustrate football fans, because ultimately they want to pay their money, they want to go and watch the games, but they can't get in touch with anybody if they want to make a change, and that's what frustrates people. Frustrates us in all walks of life, whether you're having issues with PayPal like you, Dave, or whether you're somebody sitting at home who's you've got an issue with your gas or your electric, or your satellite TV, whatever you've got an issue with. We all hate going on a phone call and listening to an automated voice, not dealing with a human being, and not getting anywhere where we want to get to. And that's the problem we're having with tickets at Newcastle, and it seems Sunderland's exactly the same. Sunderland seem to have exactly the same. I don't know what the experience is like at Middlesbrough. So if anybody is a Middlesbrough fan who wants to text in and let us know what kind of experiences they're having, because obviously Rye is in Australia, he doesn't get a chance to go to the games, and Dave probably sits with a prawn sandwich brigade.
Yeah, he probably does.
Bitch.
Is there any bad experiences out there from any Middlesbrough fans? I mean, digital ticketing is obviously coming in across the board, but is there any horror stories at Middlesbrough? What's the Middlesbrough the ticket office like to deal with? Can you get through to them? When you want to buy a ticket, is it easy? Or if you've got a complaint, can you get in touch with them? We've got supporter services at Newcastle, but I know when I've messaged supporter services, I think I've got a 1 in 3 strike rate. I've emailed them, they've got him back in touch with me 1 in 3 times, and that's no good when you're trying to resolve something, or you need something resolved from the football club.
I think
they should reply to you on a regular basis.
I think from a Borough perspective, and by the way, they wouldn't allow me to be part of the prawn sandwich brigade. So we've got our season cards. Myself and my son, we go as normal fans to every game. We've paid our money and we've got our seats, and that's where we go. So we've got Yvonne, who heads up supporter services at the Borough. She's great. I don't know whether it's because I've got a bit of a personal relationship in terms of I know her well and I've known her for a long time, but she seems to be pretty good. I don't know if you've come come across Yvonne in a team, Rye, at any particular time, but she
I don't think so. No.
She takes her job very seriously, and she's approachable, and from a fan's perspective, I've seen her sort many issues out, so that's good. Ticket office, like I say, there is a route through the phone system to get to the ticket office and speak to a human being, and I know people who use it. I've used it myself at times. So I don't think. I mean, the borough like to. I think they do like to utilise this community sort of club feel. They're a professional football club. Yes, they're in a professional league with professional players forming a professional team. But I think they do. They've got the foundation which works massively across Teesside in terms of health and education awareness. And we're trying to raise some money with this Miguel Beck charity game for that, a chunk of cash to help that and other causes across Teesside. So, there are many links to it's got that more of a community feel. I'd say it's more of a Brentford feel in the Premier League than it is of a Manchester United feel. So I think it is approachable as a club. I've got to be fair to them, and I've got to take my cap off to them. But if there's fans out there that think differently, get in touch. WhatsApp us on 0330 043 2002. I can only tell you what my experiences of the club have been.
And mentioning,
we must be doing all right. We keep selling out.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just going to say, mentioning Sunderland as well. Just on that point, I did sort of criticise the ticket office, but I must say that Chris Waters, who's our fans liaison officer, a very, very good one at that, does get in touch when you do email him a lot, and he has been dealing with probably inquiries that he shouldn't have to deal with, but with regards to the ticket office, because it should be the ticket office staff, but they are. It's not their fault in a way, because they're just sort of understrengthed. It's a cost cutting of the club. That's the issue, really. And I do feel sorry for them girls and guys, actually, because they get a lot of abuse, and and it's not nice. It's just not nice. But Sunderland, the owners and that need to be held accountable, and they need to give the people the right tools to work with. So we've got to realise where we are now. We're in the Championship. We're not in League One anymore. We've got to start being run like a Championship club. And I just think, I just think that's basically, it would improve the relationship between the fans and the club. And I know you can say, well, if you're doing well on the pitch, it doesn't matter. The fans will be happy. But it's because of the world that we're in now, it's the whole match day experience and stuff like that. And I know we're going to touch on fan zones and stuff, but Sunderland could really, improve the relationship with the fans if they could if the people that worked at the club had the right tools to work with. I think it's all pounds, shillings and pence, isn't it? Shillings were an old currency of ours, right? Just to bring you up to speed with the lingo we use. There you go. It's all pounds, shillings and pence. It's expensive to run a football club. The way players' salaries are just exploding exponentially, transfer fees, all that kind of stuff, as Newcastle are finding out now in the Premier League. But it's the same in the Championship, relatively speaking. I think Steve Gibson came out a while ago and said it costs him 14-15 million a year just to run Middlesbrough Football Club, and that's got nothing to do with transfer fees and all that, because they've got training grounds to maintain, and it's a fantastic training facility. It's a bit like the Academy of Light, that's impressive as well. And I know Newcastle are looking to build. They've just upgraded Benwell. Is it still at Benwell? And they're looking to build a new one as well in the future. So it's not just the stadium, which costs money. It's not just the training ground, which costs money. It's not just the playing staff, which costs money. Everything is a cost. And football clubs have got to be run in a way like a business. They've got to have a P&L. They've got to have a bottom line. They've got to hit targets. Otherwise, they go out of business. And I think this is all part of it. If you don't have to employ 150 staff because you can do it with 120, I don't know. I've made the figures up. You save yourself 30 staff positions, which is a big cost. Yeah. So I think. But the thing is, David. The thing is, though, what doesn't help is when you're led to believe by clubs that they've got money, and the owners have got money to invest in stuff like this. And do you know what I mean? When they sort, it doesn't help when you're being led down the garden path, so to speak. So it's all right saying you could do it at this cost and do it with less people and stuff like that, but the clubs, especially because the fans pay a lot of money for tickets and stuff like that, the clubs really do need to think about the fans. And there's some people that can't do it online and stuff like that. And take this example for the season cards. That should have really been, like, it was sort of thrown upon people. That should have been sort of drip fed in. I just don't think it was. I think they could have handled that better, and I just think off the pitch the club could handle things a lot better at the moment.
It's a tricky one, because let's just make up some hypotheticals here. Let's just make up some numbers. Let's just say what I was trying to pull from the grey matter. If it costs to run Middlesbrough Football Club 15 million basic a year, even if you sell 20,000 season tickets at an average price of 500-600 quid, that's only going to pull in 10-12 million. And that's on season cards. The rest then going to be walk-ups, commercial, and all that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of an uphill battle with a normal football club. If you got the Saudi money, Steve, it's probably a bottomless pit. But I couldn't resist.
You had to chuck that in. That's been that's a lot to have done, lads. 1 hour 33 minutes.
No, but
fans walking for free.
That's the harsh reality of it, isn't it? It's a business at the end of the day, and if you don't balance the books, or you don't have an owner who keeps putting his hand in his pocket to subsidise it, then you are going out of business. It's as simple as that, and it's the same for all 92 clubs.
100%.
It only seems to be getting more expensive as well, doesn't it? It just seems to be getting more and more expensive. The player wages, we've seen the transfer window keep getting broken each year. We saw obviously COVID as well. COVID was an unprecedented sort of cost to football when we lost fans and we lost games and stuff like that, and TV rights and all that sort of stuff. So that would have taken a big hit to a few clubs as well that were struggling already to balance the books. And we see it in across the leagues, everyone trying to balance books, and we see financial fair play and we see parachute payments, and it's just incredible. So to be able to manage a football club in this day and age, I tell you, you've got to be crazy, I reckon, because it'd turn you grey or bald very, very quickly.
But the owners of the three big clubs in the Northeast, they should, you would think that because they own the clubs, you would think they would know the demand of the support, and you would think that they would know how loyal the support are in all three clubs. So you would think they would say, well, yes, I know it's a hard business to go down, but you think, we are probably going to be selling loads of tickets for matches, so we really need to make sure that the ticket office is up to scratch, and you might think, when it comes to the cup matches, and we'll not talk about Sunderland's League Cup campaign this season,
if you want.
No, you can't. When it comes to the cup games, you might have smaller crowds at home, but it would balance itself out over the season, because you've just got to look at how many supporters go to the matches every week in the Northeast, and the support up here is just second to none, and I just think that the fans are just being treated with discontent, and I just think that they could be treated a lot better. And obviously I'm not just having to go at Sunderland, I'm taking out what Steve said about Newcastle and their fans and stuff like that, and having to be moved around and stuff like that, and I know it's not as big, but obviously again we'll not talk much about it, but when Hibs had their European run this season, you had for the home games, you had people having to be moved around for first corporate and stuff like that, and the thing is, and
sorry, mate, I thought you were talking Hibs there. Just give me a bit of Donald Blake your trousers.
I'm on my high horse about tickets. Sorry, and it's just obviously the fans have they're just like you say, they're just being treated over the boards with discontent, and I do blame Sky as well for a lot of that, because the money that the fact they're moving games around when they want to, and it's and like you say, players have too much power, but what can you do?
I tell you what, because I've worked on the inside of football business, I have sympathy and empathy for fans with what you say, the Sky deal and moving games around, but you pay your money, you take your choice. I mean, the EFL, from a championship perspective, the Premier League obviously as well, have taken the money for TV deals, and you know what the implications are. I mean, the only way you can do it is set up your own TV channel and say, right, we're not going to move fixtures around. If you're going to take the money from the broadcasters and the networks and the Premier League from 200 countries around the world, then you've got to accept there's disruption. I'm sorry, that's the nature of the football business.
Yeah, but you look at, obviously Steve will be able to comment on more about this, but if you look at, say, Newcastle's game with Brentford at the weekend, obviously that originally, I think, was a Sunday. I'm sure Steve will correct me if I'm wrong. That originally was a Sunday. Obviously it got moved because Newcastle are in the Champions League, in case you didn't know. And so that's been moved to a Saturday, 5:30. And that makes it difficult for Brentford fans. But not just that, it's the fact that I think it was only moved, was it a week ago or maybe a week and a half ago, Steve? So my people would have booked their train tickets to come up for that game on a Sunday.
I know, I get it, and I know
that's the problem.
There's a few fans. Right. There's a few fans' bodies have gone to the train operators and made representation to say, come on, guys, it's not our fault that we have to change tickets. Can you come up with something? And I remember I helped set up the Middlesbrough Supporters Forum, which I was a part of for a year or so before leaving. And that was definitely on one of the lists that, we got support of the club to go and approach the train operators and say, look, when games change, it's not our fault. From a supporter's perspective, can you come up? And one of the suggestions was a more flexible football fan ticket that you can buy, where if the games are switched last minute, then the train companies would give flexibility. Not asking for a refund, but allow you to change that ticket. So it would give you the option of going to a rearranged game or a different kick-off time, or even a different day. If it's pushed to a Sunday or a Monday or something like that, then at least that ticket would be valid. So yeah, I get that, absolutely get that, because it's not the fans' fault when things are changed last minute.
No, and that's the knock-on effect with football supporters, up and down the country. We talked about this the other week with Southampton coming to the Stadium of Light, and having a 12:30 kick-off, and Newcastle going to Brighton and having a 5:30 kick-off. And I understand, the networks they've got to work within their restrictions. They've got to work with advertisers. There'll be some products that probably manage to that advertise during these games will be better suited for maybe a later kick-off and things like that, but there has to be some kind of consideration for football supporters. But I still believe that they're trying to they're trying to kill the away support. I think they would much prefer it if we were all just sitting at home watching it and paying for the privilege of watching football, whilst the home game was turned into a like a baseball or an American football kind of atmosphere where it's families they're sitting eating drinking and being merry watching an extended game, so they're there longer spending more money. I do have that feeling that certain club owners would love to go down that particular route, but you don't want to lose the tribalism, you don't want to lose the atmosphere, which is what away supporters bring, and makes it all the more enjoyable, of course, when your team scores the goals and wins the game on a particular day. So yeah, it's going to rumble on this. I think the whole thing is going to rumble on. Timings of kickoffs, the ticketing issues. We've got lots and lots of different issues that football fans have on a season in, season out basis.
I'll just pick it up on one point. Northeast club away football fans bring, because we do see some of the London clubs come up to the northeast and there's only a sprinkling of fans which give you no atmosphere whatsoever. So from our perspective, absolutely got that. Fellas, time to take a quick break. We've got just less than 20 minutes to the show left. We'll chat more on the Northeast Footy Breakfast after this.
I understood loneliness before I knew what it was.
Calvin Harris, Rag and Bone Man and Giant. Is it true, Mackie? He's from Scotland. Is that right?
He is.
Oh, I wouldn't have played it if I'd have known. Wouldn't have played it. No.
Former Queen of the South, actually. Former Queen of the South. He's a singer-songwriter and a record producer. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I slipped up there, didn't I? Anyway, look, it's England, Scotland. Sorry, Scotland, England. I'll have to find something to tie Australia into this. I'm sorry, Rye. We've got to do it somehow. But just to make Macca feel at home, here we go.
Oh, Florida, Scotland. When will we see your like again?
Okay, enough of that. That's enough of that. Just wanted a flavour of it, and just to counteract it, we've got to do a bit of this, haven't we? We've got to do a bit of it.
I think it's bad news for the English.
Oh no.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
We're not creative enough. We're not positive enough.
It's coming home. It's coming home.
I don't know what's coming home, but it is. So there you go. That's we've set the scene.
The friendly's coming home.
That's it. The friendly's coming home. There we go.
More like Southgate's going home.
It started early.
Oh yeah. Here we go. So where's it happening? It's happening in Glasgow, Hampden.
It is at Hampden Park.
Sold out Hampden.
A sold-out Hampden.
Going to be
nice.
Mark the passing of 150th anniversary of the world's oldest international fixture. Can you believe it? 150th. Jeez.
It's a heritage match.
How old are we getting?
Yeah.
I went through the stats yesterday,
interesting as
didn't we?
well.
I was amazed how close it was, because obviously Scotland have won 41, England have won 48, and there's been 26 draws. It's a lot closer than I thought. I always felt England may have had the upper hand, by a wider margin, but they haven't. So it's an interesting fixture, this, but nothing to play for apart from pride tonight, I think, lads. That's the difference.
Yeah. It was interesting to hear Southgate come out and say it would be ridiculous for England to rotate heavily as well. I mean, everyone was thinking for a friendly that we might see a completely different England squad from what we've seen on the weekend against Ukraine, that you might see some of those fringe players maybe get a start. Maybe Jordan Henderson and Harry Maguire, his best friends, don't get played. But Southgate yesterday, talking to ESPN, said that it would be ridiculous for him to make huge changes, and that it's all about finding the right balance of physical freshness. So
the thing is, all right, Gareth Southgate's under so much pressure at the moment, isn't he? Because I say it again, England, the way their fans have been talking and the press, the performances have been drab and dreak. So he really needs to come out and yes, it's a friendly, but I think England want to beat us as much as we want to beat them. So I think he needs to come out, and the England team need to put a performance on. I think I think there is a lot of people that's come out the squad, isn't there? So I think he just sort of wants as much of a strong team as he can, because he knows that he's under pressure. So he knows that the team needs to perform.
Yeah,
well, he hinted that he will go with the majority of those. Yeah, so
Steve Clark sees this, didn't he? I watched his press conference. He sees this as a bit of a chance to test where Scotland are at. I mean, they've had such a good run. They've had such a good run, and I think he said it's going to be like the perfect barometer, what progress Scotland have made.
Worth reminding you as well that obviously Scotland can actually qualify for Euro 2024 tonight without even kicking a ball if Norway and Georgia draw in Oslo, and Scotland are the only team that can qualify for the Euros this month. So it's testament to what he's done. And if we do qualify tonight, there'll be 3 games remaining still, and so to qualify from your group with 3 games remaining, that would be amazing. And so while England is a big game, there is a bigger picture, and I'm sure everyone will be tuning in to know the Norway game. And imagine if we beat England and Norway get the draw, the party at Hampden Park, especially if one game finished before the other because of VAR. It could the game could go on a while in Norway or over here. So it'll be interesting.
What are the 2 kickoff times, Macca? Do you know them?
I think they're 7:45, aren't they? I know Scotland kicks off at 7:45.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to know what
Scotland v England is at 19:45.
Yeah.
That Norway game, it would be good to find out as well, because that could well happen. I mean, it's happened, in the English top flight. Manchester United won the title when they didn't play. Arsenal, I think, won their title and they weren't playing that game. And just yesterday, and congratulations, though we changed the code completely to Durham cricket team being promoted into the top flight of the county championship without bowling a ball. Yeah, so they're back up there. So congratulations to keep the Northeast theme going. But what I'm interested in is, and we've mentioned this on the show before, but now we're so close to Scotland, England, I'll mention it again. I like Scotland. I will support Scotland as an Englishman in major tournaments if they qualify. Let's just qualify that statement. Whereas I don't get the feeling that Scotland fans would ever support England in any major tournament, and I don't know what that is. Is it just a lot of old English history, British history, UK history, from the way the Lords used to, try and rule the land and take over land in Scotland? Does it go back that far? This rivalry, this almost hatred, or what is it? Is it Brexit? Is it nationalism? Is it what is it? Why can't Scotland fans ever support England?
It's the press, because so when England qualified for the World Cup and stuff like that, the build up to it and the expectation, and like if you make the quarterfinals and get knocked out, it's seen as a failure. What? Yeah. Why has England got any God-given right to win anything? And it comes back to one thing: money in the game of football. That's the problem. It's the money. But and obviously, if Scotland had the same money, then they would maybe have similar expectations. But there's not that much money in the Scottish game. But what is good for Scotland is that there is a lot of our good players now are playing in top Premiership teams. But that's ultimately what it is. It's the press's attitude, because you've made comments like already saying, oh well, if you're close in the Northeast, you're close to being to Scotland, so we can live with that. It's down south. It's the media down south, isn't it? Like London and all that. It's just no matter what sport it is, England seem to have every right to win it, and it's just an arrogance. And it's good, and that's why so many people in Scotland laugh when England fall on their face. It's not necessarily a go at the fans. It literally is just the media.
It's an interesting point, that, to be fair. I mean, we do build ourselves up for a fall. The press in general, I think, do like to build certain players up and then follow their demise. We've seen that, so I wouldn't disagree with you, and I would agree with Dave. I mean, I'm a big fan of Scotland, as a country. I enjoy going there. I enjoy going to Edinburgh. I enjoy going to Glasgow. It's a great place to visit. But yeah, maybe the rivalry probably does go back, to days when none of us can remember. That there's a hell of a lot of history between the two countries. But yeah, politics plays its part as well, Dave. You've seen that Scotland on more than one occasion now try to get independence, separate from us, which I think would be daft. I think we should all stick together. We're a small island and we should all stick together. But look, it's football, it's sport. Rivalry's a healthy thing, and look, it's something which people, a lot of people enjoy, and I'm obviously I know we're running out of time. I still think tonight will be a close game. I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw. I don't think there'll be a winner tonight. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw, and England's away. They failed to win 4 of their last 6 away games. I think that tells you a little bit about how they travel. And Scotland's got a bit of an edge to it. So yeah, I'm going 1-1, lads.
Okay.
I'm going to chip in sit on the fence from across the ocean.
Good man.
And I'm going to go with a 2-2. I'm going to go 2-2. I think we're going to see 2 goals apiece. And it'll be all shared. And tomorrow we'll see a happy no Brexit.
I'm telling you, you two have got splinters in your bum. You're sitting that heavily on the fence. Yeah. Macca, where scoreline, mate?
2-1 Scotland.
2-1 Scotland.
Yeah.
If that comes off, I will
game is
sing.
At the same time as well. That is at the same time. It's both kicking off at 7:45. So
I was going to say, if that happens, I will sing "O Flower of Scotland" on tomorrow's show. Absolutely. I'm going for a 2-0 England win. 2-0 England. I'm confident. I'd even put Macca's money on that.
Hey.
Well, I'm going to go and ring Ivan Toney.
enough for coming on this show.
I'm going to ring Ivan Toney and find out what his bet is.
Oh, we end as we started. Fantastic, fellas. Another cracking show. We've run out of time. We'll catch you all tomorrow and we'll see whether I'm singing embarrassingly or whether and Macca's cock a hoop or whether Macca is very quiet. We will find out.
Take care, guys. Have a good day.
Cheers, fellas.
Take care, guys. Have
See
a
you all
good day.
tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.